Here we go. Wow. The way the Lindsay Clancy trial is going, I think a lot of people are thinking, okay, not looking so great for the prosecution, right? I think a lot of people are thinking that, are saying that. The cross examination has been intense. Just the nature of the case in and of itself, public reaction to the case, everything seems to be leaning in that direction. And I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, what does it matter? Like, what's the difference between her being locked up in a prison and being locked up in an institution for the rest of her life?" I mean, those are the two choices. It's not a question of what's going to happen to her. It's just where she's going to be locked up. And that is just completely wrong. That is completely wrong. Understand this, okay? Understand this. If she's found not criminally responsible, she will go free and she will end up at her parents' house. Guarantee that. Guarantee that. It may not be in the first couple months, but she will go free and she'll end up at her parents' house. Now, there's been some evidence in this case that it leads me exactly there, and also understanding the law, right? Understanding the law and what happens to someone who's found not criminally responsible, and how our system treats them, and what the analysis is, and what the reality is, and what the evidence is in this trial that I've heard that is her ticket out of any sort of inpatient locked institution back to her parents' house. It will happen. It will absolutely happen. This is not a case of should she be locked up in prison or should she be locked up in an institution. The real choice here is, should she be locked up in prison or should she go free? Because that's what will happen. Understand that. Now, should that be a consideration for the jury? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And I think there's a misperception, and that misperception could find its way into the jury room. That jurors believe, well, it doesn't really matter what we say here because no one's going to let her go free. Like, she'll either be locked up where she is now, Tewksbury or wherever she is, and she'll get the treatment that she needs, and all. No, that's not what's going to happen. That's not what happens in our system generally, even with some of the worst of the worst. And there are facts and there's evidence in this case that I've heard from the witness stand, sworn testimony, and from prosecution witnesses that would set her free very quickly. Very quickly. So that's what we're going to talk about here. We're going to get into everything. I've got some video that I have to show you of Kevin Reddington going off on one of the local reporters, John DePietro. You may know him, may remember him from Karen Reed. I'm going to play that video. I have to, because Ashley Bouchard demands that I play that for everyone. So I'm going to. Nate Eaton from East Idaho News posted it. Amazing. We'll get into that, and also get into the analysis of the case and what this jury has to take a look at, and maybe talk about a preview of closing arguments. Although I may post videos with my closing arguments, what they would be. That may be separate. So this is going to be what I call, this video is really a reality check. A reality check on what our system will do here based upon what the jury says. But if the jury says not criminally responsible, she will go free. I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Vinny Live.
It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide it's Vinny Live. It's true crime, streaming live. Worldwide, it's Vinny Live. Get ready to post inside the chat. Get ready for the prosecutor hat. Get set to like and to subscribe. Get ready, it's time for Vinny Live.
Welcome to Vinny Live. Great to see everyone today and in the trial that may not ever end. Well, they don't work that late, okay? And a judge sets the schedule, and they work, 9:30, 10 o'clock to about 3:30, 4 o'clock each day. And that's a long day. It's a long day for a juror. But we've seen other judges and other juries go from like 8 to 6 or just plow through it. I think this pace is better. I think this is easier for everyone to absorb the information that they're getting. If you give them too many witnesses in one day, or you have them sitting there for 9, 10 hours trying to comprehend some complicated, nuanced information, I think it's problematic. So I like the way the judge is doing this. Will they finish tomorrow? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Originally, I said if closing arguments were by Tuesday, I'd be shocked if the jury was passed Friday, but right now all bets are off on any sort of verdict this week. Could happen very quickly, but may not. Okay, so Lindsay will go free. So understand this: when you are found not criminally responsible in Massachusetts, there's like a civil commitment process that takes place. So you're committed, and then once you are committed, you're in the hands of the treating physicians, who will, like she's been getting treatment, provide the counseling, the medication, and the everyday sort of treatment to make sure that she's doing well mentally, and in this case physically as well, because of her new disability that she has. So that's what will happen. But what happens after that is a continuous system of evaluation where she will be deemed a patient, not a defendant, but a patient, and will return to court. And when she returns to court, the treating physicians will supply reports and, in most cases, testify live on the stand and tell the judge how the patient is doing. What do you think they say? What do you think that they say, the treating physicians? I did this work in Bergen County, New Jersey. And it drove me crazy, because every time someone who had been found not guilty by reason of insanity, which is the same as not criminally responsible in Massachusetts, the patient would come in, and it didn't matter what they did, whether it was, ending the lives of people, robbing a store, streaking naked, whatever it was, whatever their underlying criminal conduct was, the doctors would come in and would tell us every single time, how well the patient was doing. And why were they doing so well? Well, the treating physician is really good at what he does. Do you think the treating physician is going to come in and say, patient's not doing any better, we just can't get through to her? No, they're going to come in, as they do, and say the patient is responding well to treatment. And then eventually they make a recommendation. And every time the recommendation is to give the patient a little more freedom, in hopes of returning them back to society and releasing them from the facility. That's their goal, is to push them out the door. So that's what the testimony will be. What's the legal standard for the judge? It's simple. Is the patient a danger to himself, herself, or others? Let's take the others and just throw it away at this point. She's in a wheelchair. What kind of harm is she going to have to others? She poses almost zero harm to others. Sure, there are things she can do, but she's going to need some help to do it. So if she's in the hands of responsible caretakers, what danger to others is there? Is there a danger to herself? Yeah, I guess to a certain extent she can use her hands. you know, she might be able to do some level of harm to herself. But is she in that mode? Is she responding well to the medicine? There was testimony in this trial talking about how well she's been doing under the treatment, taking her medications. Testimony from the forensic psychologist on cross-examination. Reddington brought out how well she's doing. Well, if we weren't in this part of the case, if we were in the next part of the case, where the question is, should she be confined in this institution or be free to leave? That would basically be her ticket to freedom. She's responding well to treatment. As long as she takes her meds, she's okay. Does she resist taking her meds? No, she takes them. Does she have a place to go? Yeah, with her parents who show up every day, who've been staying in hotels to be with their daughter. What better support system could someone have than two parents who are totally focused on the care of their daughter, period. Full stop. That's what they're doing. That's what they've been doing for 3 years now. That's a ticket home. Like that. Now, because of the nature of the underlying crime, the system may play around with a little bit and not make it too obvious, and may not do it, in the first 6 months. Maybe they'll wait a year, maybe 18 months. It might start with her going home on weekends just to see how she does. And then she's out of there. What happens is they do the week. Well, let's give her a couple days. All right. Why don't we give you a couple days at home and we'll see how you do. She goes, everything goes well. Yeah, we'll give you a couple more days. Everything's going well. Let's give you every weekend. You go home. Oh, look how well she's doing. All right, let's have you go home now and you just do some outpatient. You know what you do? You could do some video visits with your treating physicians. Talk about ironies. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. So, do you understand that? Whether you agree or disagree with it, that's the way our system works. The whole focus of the treating physicians is to get the patient back home and get them out of their facility, open up a bed for someone else. The judge wants to make sure that, doesn't blow up in their face. So if someone's actually a threat, they don't want, they're not going to release them. But if the doctor's saying it's okay and the lawyers are arguing for it and they've got a place to go and she's done well on weekends, judge will sign off on it. Happens every day across our country. There are thousands and thousands of these cases. There are a lot of cases like this where the prosecution and defense both agree that the person is insane or not criminally responsible. Because all the experts agree. Here, the experts didn't agree. They didn't agree. But sometimes they do. It does actually happen. Most of the cases I had, they weren't trials. These were resolved cases where, our expert took a look and said, and then there was an agreement and the person was put into an institution rather than criminally prosecuted voluntarily by the prosecutor's office. And sometimes they stay in that status of inpatient, outpatient for years and years. And usually the longest that you can be under the court's restrictions is as long as you could have served in prison. Well, here it's life. So she could be going back to court once a year for the rest of her life, just as sort of a check-in. But she'll still be coming home, not from the institution. That's what's going to happen. Lindsay will go free. She will be home with her parents. Period. So that's, and from what everyone's saying, right? That's the way the case seems to be leaning. That's public sentiment is that way. It's not 100%. It's not 100%. There's also room in this case for something less than the top count. It could be involuntary. So say, for instance, we have a jury and, we're 9-3 and there's three that are, and there are folks like this, right? There's a split here. I think initially it was very even. I think now it leans, I saw a Court TV survey, had it kind of like closer to 80% that feel that she's not criminally responsible. But if you have 1, 2, 3, or 4 jurors that don't agree with the rest, there's a place for them to meet. Involuntary. It could be involuntary manslaughter, which has a much less of a sentence. Maybe that works. Maybe that doesn't work. I don't know. But there is a potential, and I believe every jury tries to reach a verdict, and I think they'll do that in this case. It may not be quick, because if you come into it like, no, I'm not convicting someone for what they did to these 3 children, right? And you got people over here like, no, but she obviously would not have done this except for the mental illness. And you can see how those 2 things could meet like this. Well, how does a jury resolve that? Well, maybe the mindset wasn't premeditated, or, it's something less. Irresistible impulse kind of deal, right? Possible. Some sort of involuntary manslaughter as sort of a compromise. Now, if it's a quick verdict, if they come back quickly, if they come back, within 2 days, she's not getting convicted. Quick verdict here is the opposite of conviction. Quick verdict here, from my perspective, means they all sort of agree the mental illness. And no matter how you look at it, and this is what I don't understand. There was a big deal today really focusing on voices or no voices. And I'm spending a lot of time on that on Vinnie Politan Investigates tonight. So you want to check that out on Court TV at 8 o'clock. We're also posting the video over on Court TV's YouTube channel, analyzing some of the testimony relative to this. But at the end of the day, really, did it have to be a voice? Like, for me, the problem I personally have, if I was a juror, like, yes, if I believe she heard a voice, that's a problem, a huge problem for prosecutors. But the bigger problem is what we're talking about here. This is someone who's actually mentally ill. And like the prosecution's own experts said, bipolar 2. Bipolar 2. If I'm the defense, yeah, they want the voice controlling her. They don't want it to be her inner thoughts. To me, there's no difference. There's no difference. Like, if she wasn't bipolar, would the children be alive? Right? And I get back to the burden. And this, as we get to the end, becomes so much more important and needs to be at the forefront of it's on the forefront of my analysis. It has been, is that what's happening here is that prosecutors have to disprove this stuff. So it's not just like, the defense puts in their version and I don't really believe it. Like, I think it's more likely that she didn't hear the voices. But yeah, it's possible. Like, if it's possible, if it's reasonably possible that she heard the voices and the voices commanded her, that should be not criminally responsible. That's the reasonable doubt. That's all the defense, to me, that's all the defense has to show or convince this jury, is that there's a reasonable alternative explanation for what happened here, and it's directly connected to her mental disease or defect and her inability to control her actions, number one, and number two, her inability to distinguish like good from evil, right from wrong. Because even, again, the prosecution expert today was talking about why she did it. Well, she did it because either the auditory voices, which he wasn't buying, or what he did say, the prosecution expert, she did it because she loved her children. She's convinced she's taking her own life. And she thinks that will result in the suffering of her children. And she'd rather go to God and be with her children so she can take care of them. Like that is not logical thinking. You cannot believe that not having you versus having this placed around your neck by your mother, this is suffering. This is suffering. But she didn't see it as suffering, according to the prosecution expert. She saw that as loving, the loving thing to do. She did it out of love. These aren't my words. This is not a defense. This is the prosecution's own expert saying it was done out of love. You do something out of love. Love is good. Love is not bad. Love is right. Love is not wrong. I'm about to write a country song right now. Everything in this case is so bizarre because I think both sides are making arguments that don't help them in any way, that I see completely differently. I don't know how the prosecution is going to do it. But like this whole thing about her taking her meds. If she takes her medicine and follows what the doctors tell her to do, right? The prosecution keeps saying, well, she didn't even finish her prescription. She didn't follow the doctor's orders. She wasn't trying to get help for herself. Okay, so what does that mean? That means she was still mentally ill. She was still suffering because she didn't do what the doctor said to do to make her better. That means she's still suffering from a mental disease and defect. I think it would be better for prosecutors if she finished all her prescriptions and she followed all the doctor's advice. Because then maybe she would have had a chance, if someone correctly diagnosed her, that she could have gotten better. And if she's mentally better and then does what she did to her children, then she should be criminally responsible because she's no longer suffering from a mental disease or defect because she's been treated for it and she's sort of got control of it. But if she's not getting the treatment and she's not getting better, why do the prosecutors think that's good for them? I don't think that's good for them. I think it's bad for them. That tells me that Lindsay is still suffering from whatever diagnosis you believe in all of this. And it's self-evident that she didn't get better because the children aren't here. Like if she got better, the children would still be here. Prosecutors are hung up on several factors here. And I understand what they believe, and they're entitled to believe it. Number one, I explained this in another video. They believed that this, because it wasn't tied in a knot, these exercise bands weren't tied in a knot, that she had to be there holding it and more pressure over the course of 3, 4, 5 minutes per child. Whereas when I actually tied this around myself and then did the first part of tying the bow like this and then let it go, it got tighter. It actually gets tighter. So as hard as you pull it and then you loop it and pull it again, say at that point I'm feeling a 7. When you let go of it, it goes up to like a 9. No one has talked about this in the trial. They should have. At least the defense should have. But yeah, these exercise bands, when you let go, they actually constrict you even more, which doesn't undermine the prosecution case, but it undermines, I think, their perception of what happened to each child, which drove a lot of this prosecution. It started at the arraignment. So that's number one. The second part of this is prosecutors are stuck in a tough place because they're acknowledging all of this. Their experts are acknowledging that there's something wrong with it. It's just we disagree with what it is. Now, where the defense is, I think, making a potential mistake here is making this all about postpartum. Don't make this about postpartum. Postpartum's in the gray area. Like we heard testimony talking about like postpartum, the onset is in the first 4 weeks, 6 weeks. It's not so many months later. And a juror could get hung up on that. They really could. Saying this isn't postpartum. Postpartum would have been during after the child was born. The first month, the second month. That's 7 months later. Or however many months it is. Like that could be a losing argument. I'm not saying whether it's true or not true is not the point. The point is the prosecution agrees that she's bipolar. And she wasn't being treated for that. But that's what she was. That, to me, is much more compelling than the postpartum argument. Whether postpartum played a role, didn't play a role, there's too much gray. And there's not where's the common agreement? Where's the agreement of the experts? Like, what are they all saying? All except Dr. Mack are saying bipolar. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, you heard the experts, except for Dr. Mack. We know about him, right? Just dismiss him. Everybody else agrees. She's suffering from bipolar. Was she being treated for that? There you go. She's taking pills for this, for that, but they're not treating what's actually wrong with her. And then she had this psychotic episode. Whether it was her thoughts, an auditory hallucination, however you want to describe it, from my perspective, doesn't really matter. Because if the defense tries to hang their hat on this auditory hallucination, that could be another problem for one or more jurors. Because the argument from prosecutors is a very, very obvious argument. Conveniently, the only time this auditory hallucination shows up is when Patrick goes to CVS and to 3V after being sent there by Lindsay. And then all of a sudden, the auditory hallucination shows up. Did the auditory hallucination get on her phone and plan out the route and figure out how long it takes to get there? Did the auditory hallucination tell her to pick a restaurant that they never get takeout from, that is further away than a bunch of restaurants that are much closer? She didn't even know what she wanted initially. They had to look at the menu. It wasn't like, oh, I really want those bowls from 3V. I need one of those. I'm craving it tonight. It was no, she picked out this place, seemingly based upon where it is. That's why the auditory hallucination may not be the winning argument here for the defense. That may not be where reasonable doubt would lie for this jury, because you could get hung up on it very easily. This is a case with a documented history, but not a documented history of auditory hallucinations. Like, we're splitting hairs, though. Like, in most cases that go to trial like this, it's usually this whole defense is just, it's the first time that the defendant has ever even talked about mental health issues, right? It's the defense of last resort. Here it's the first defense, the obvious defense. So I look at it like both sides in this case have confused me at times because of the things that they're arguing. And I think some of their arguments they don't have to make, or some of the arguments they shouldn't even make because it's better for the other side. And all of this has created, from my perspective, a lot of mushy gray area, which is never great for prosecutors. It's always better for the defense. But there's not real clarity here in what every fact associated with this whole thing means. So, all right, let me get to some comments based upon what I've said now, and I'll get to the DiPietro video. That's like the dessert, okay? That'll be the dessert when we talk about that. All right, I think I'm starting from the beginning here. Oh, these go way back, okay. All right, I'm going to get to a few comments to kind of weave them in so I don't go on forever and ever and ever. I've been going for a half hour already. By the way, people are talking about Dolly Parton, obviously. A big loss. Absolute icon. Absolute icon. Like a piece of America, Dolly Parton. And she'll be missed. She'll be missed. But not forgotten. And when you think about, just for a moment, Dolly Parton, like she was really like, you know, she was probably the strongest woman in this world of country music that just kind of took charge of everything. And really, really great entertainer. Will obviously be missed greatly. All right, we've got Ted Investigates. Ted, love the show, Vinny. Thank you, Ted Investigates. All right. I'm sure Ted is investigating this one. Just going to scroll a little bit here. Scroll. And here's what Julie WP6RD. Vinny, we all know the medication has been one mess. And here's the other thing, right? There's going to be some jurors, and there may be a lot of jurors, that are really focused on all these medications in the course of 4 months. Prosecutors now have to argue, listen, yeah, we know there was a lot of medication, but listen, she was never taking more than 3 at a time. And when something's in her system, then it's out of her system. So it's not like that cocktail of things. That's a mess. That's a mess. There's no way people are not going to believe you take that many different medications for your head that it's not good. It doesn't make you better to take all of that stuff. And if you try to argue that, well, yeah, she took that, but then she stopped taking it, so it wasn't that, it was something else. Like the cumulative effect of going from medication to medication is more of a common sense reaction that people will have, that there's no way that everything's going to be okay if you keep messing with your mind with all these different pills, some of which you're not even supposed to be taking for what you have. So that's a losing argument for prosecutors. That's another thing that they've got to clean up. That's another problem they have. They have someone who admittedly is bipolar, has been getting tons of medications, some of which are the exact opposite of what you should be taking under the situation. Now the question is, here's something else about this particular defense. And I know there are a lot of people who I approach this the same way I approach the death penalty. What? This defense, I approach the same way as the death penalty, is that it's the law, right? It's the law. So there are cases where someone is facing the ultimate punishment, the deep end, right? And there's a faction of the audience that will never agree with that. And I understand that. You don't believe in that form of punishment. Here's the problem, and here's where I attack a lot of prosecutors in some of these states that have it. Like, it's the law. Like, the people of the state have decided that that should be the law in our state. And if it's the law in the state, then some crime has to fall under the parameters of that, and you have to seek it, which is why I got so angry with the Idaho 4 case that they took it off the table and gave him a deal. That was ridiculous, first of all. But like, if he's not the one to get this, then who is? Like, you're a prosecutor. It's the law in the state. It's the law. So someone has to qualify for it. It wasn't created as a negotiation tool. It's created as a punishment for a crime. Right? So it's the law of the state. The law in Massachusetts is that you are not criminally responsible under certain circumstances. So you can't say that no one would ever be eligible for not criminally responsible. Like, you commit a crime, you should go to prison no matter what. You can't say that because that's not the law in the state. And that's the way I'm looking at this. That's the way I analyze these cases. Is under the law, and under the law of Massachusetts, it leans even further in favor of the defendant. Makes it even more difficult for that's the way they chose it. You put this case in Idaho, she's done. She's got no defense. But that's the law in that state. So because this is the law in this state, we have to work under these parameters. And this is what I would say. and this is the question I would have for prosecutors if I ever interviewed them. I say, I understand your perspective on this case. I get it. So tell me the circumstance. Tell me the case or the circumstances that would lead you to agree that someone is not criminally responsible. Because your job as a prosecutor is not just to prosecute everyone, it's to seek justice, which is the truth. And the truth is, if this is the law in the state, there have to be some offenders somewhere under some circumstance that would be not criminally responsible. So what would it take in terms of the person's background, in terms of the offense, in terms of whatever? My guess is their answer would be, well, if my experts agreed. If my experts agreed after evaluate, but their experts didn't evaluate her until a few months ago. At that point, it's almost too late, right? You're so far down the road. So if it's the law of the state, it has to apply somewhere, someplace, under some circumstances. And that's what I'm wondering. Because from my perspective, I compare this to the other cases that I've covered where someone is claiming legal insanity, and I'm like, not so much. Not so much. In those states also, there's a difference in the law. In most states, it's right from wrong. If you know what you're doing is wrong, you're done. Even if you can't control yourself from doing it. Massachusetts, if you know it's wrong, there's an argument here that she didn't know it was wrong, right? There is. But even if you believe she thought it was wrong, could she control herself? Or was it the mental illness that was driving her decisions into actions? That's the law. That's the law. Now, how would I vote if I was on the jury? I don't know. I was on a jury once. And I literally was thinking about the case all along, but I was like, I'm not going to really bear down until I hear what my fellow jurors are saying. I think it should be a conversation. But this one, I think it's an uphill battle. I think I might have to be convinced that beyond a reasonable doubt. See, that's the other part of this. It's beyond a reasonable. It's not that the defense's argument is stronger than the prosecution's argument. It's that it's got to be that the prosecution's argument has eliminated the defense's argument from even being reasonable. Because if it's a reasonable alternative, okay, we're not saying that it's 51%. We're saying it's there's a 15% chance that she heard the voices, or a 15% chance that she couldn't control herself, or a 15% chance that she thought what she was doing was saving her children from suffering without her, then it's not criminally responsible. Because they have to disprove it, not just disprove it 51%, they've got to disprove it beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the law of the state. Right or wrong, it's what the people have decided in Massachusetts. People of Idaho wouldn't go that way. I think Utah might be different too. Every state is a little bit different, and some states are a lot different on this particular issue. In this case. All right. Let's continue. Wow. I'm not that far behind. I'm a little bit behind. But what you will not convince me of is that if she's found not criminally responsible, that she'll be confined for the rest of her life. No. No. All right. And dog discussions. Are we on jury watch? Not yet. That's Is it soup yet? Not yet. No, no. They worked till about 4 o'clock today. They've got some more with the last witness, I believe, the last expert. Let's continue here. I don't want to miss any. Oh, there's a super. Lisa Mitchell, WV. I hope we don't have any biased weasels in the house. So do I have to play it now? Is that what you're saying? I have to play it now to make this make sense. So Kevin Reddington was coming into court this morning. This is going to be a little bit of a tangent, but all right, let me find it. I will find it for you, Lisa. 1 second. Here we go. Ready? Oh, no, we don't have volume. Oh, no. It didn't record volume? Bummer. Oh. So, I don't know why it didn't record. Is there another way for me to get it in here? I don't think so. This is going to be tough. This is going to be tough. Yeah. I didn't test it beforehand. I did it last minute. So anyway, he's coming into court here, and then he confronts John DePietro and refers to him as a biased weasel in his coverage of the case, specifically pointing out that the jury was eating up the testimony of Dr. I don't think it was Dr. Mack. I think it was Dr. Kirk. Dr. Kirk Halbrand. And first of all, I'm shocked that he's even watching the coverage or listening to the coverage, or maybe people are telling him about the coverage. It's pretty funny. It's just pretty funny. I wish I had the audio. All right. It was a near miss. And Nate Eaton over at East Idaho News got that. All right. I tried. You can't say I didn't try. But I'm a one-man band here. One-man band in the preparation of the show. But obviously we have the amazing mod squad working the chat. All right. Let me get to this next one. My little scrolling, it's jumping all over the place. John DePietro was at the Karen Reed trial. He was the guy when he exited the courthouse, got booed by the crowd, by the Karen Reed supporters. And then I had him on my show that night, and I played the video for him. And, you know, he knows he's not always popular. But he basically covers stories through more of a law enforcement filter. So that's how he comes to a lot of the conclusions that he comes to. But he fights the fight. He fights the fight. Holly Johnson, VD6LV. If it's the truth, shouldn't that be the argument made? There's enough evidence to prove reasonable doubt. Reddington is amazing to watch. Yes, thank you, Holly Johnson. Yeah, Reddington. The one thing about Reddington, though, is the second expert, Dr. Kirk Halbrand, agrees with a lot of what he's saying and doesn't have the same sort of demeanor that Dr. Mack did. And he kind of attacked him the same way. And to me, that undermines a little bit of the attack of Dr. Mack, if you're going to attack everyone like that. Dr. Halbrand basically agreed with everything except on the ultimate issue. And that's just his opinion, right? But it was sliced so thinly that it could easily be undermined, I believe, by a defense argument as to the criminal responsibility, because Dr. Kirk Halbrand said that she did it out of love. And I think Reddington can argue that that falls right under the parameters of appreciating the wrongfulness of what you're doing. If you believe if you're doing something out of love and you believe you're saving your children from suffering, doesn't that by itself prove that she didn't appreciate the wrongfulness of it? Like to me, that analysis, his conclusion went in the other direction, but I think was really splitting a split hair at that moment. At that moment, most of the cases aren't like this. Trust me, they're not. They don't have the experts will usually say the other side's malingering. Or the other side is sociopathic, not psychotic. But that's where we are. What's interesting, and I don't know exactly the huge delay in the evaluation by the prosecution experts, but it shouldn't be held against the prosecution. I mean, they had to get a court order to do it. So I think, though, I wonder if their experts came back and said not criminally responsible, would prosecutors at that point have agreed with the defense and entered into some sort of resolution of the case? I hope so. I hope so. But their experts didn't agree. So if your expert doesn't agree, I think you still have to try the case. You can't disagree with your expert because you're not an expert. All right, so I think at that point you're sort of locked in. And we've got Peggy Sue 02. I've been diagnosed with PTSD, bipolar, major depression severely, and I used to hear voices for me to take my life, and I fought to get help. That was about 10 years ago. Fine now on my medication. So glad to hear that, Peggy Sue. And the whole family looks happy in your picture. That makes me smile. I'm glad you were able to do that. Like that, to me, that's amazing. I think that gives a lot of people a lot of hope, Peggy. So thank you for sharing that. I think we should applaud Peggy Sue for sharing that because that's not easy to share personal details like that. But to see the smiles, and I know it's a cartoon, but it's making me smile. Thank you, Peggy. She had to fight to get help, and that's the tough part. I mean, I think and by the way, we've got a great showing from Facebook today. Facebook is in this today. They were a little light the other day, so good. I'm waiting to hear and see some comments from Twitch and X. If you're watching on X, post a comment. I can see them. If you're watching on Twitch, I can see your comments. Put them up there. And we've got Laura Easter. Tracy Engelbert grooms why? What kind of person just carries around his wife's prescriptions in a grocery bag in his vehicle? Okay, Laura. Laura's going after Patrick again. And today, some Easter eggs were thrown out there during some of the testimony relative to Patrick as well. But again, I don't know. I don't understand that. I don't understand everything. But what I do understand is that the Massachusetts State Police and the District Attorney's Office fully investigated this case and have no reason on earth to protect Patrick. Okay. Kevin Reddington has investigated this case, has seen all the discovery, has spoken with his client. He has an ethical obligation not to protect Patrick. With those two factors, just looking at the big picture and understanding what is known by the people who know more than all of us, why they agree that Patrick has nothing to do with what happened to the three children physically. Did not do it. Okay? Did not do it. If he did, Kevin Reddington would be compelled to go after him. So would prosecutors, by the way, ethically be compelled to do it. But you don't have that here. Kevin Reddington was ready to enter a stipulation that she did it. An actual stipulation. Plus, in the conversations with the forensic experts, she's admitting to doing it. So the Patrick stuff. Are we saying that Patrick convinced her that she did it? Okay, let's go outside of that. Let's go to one piece of evidence in the case. Lindsay's cell phone is going up the stairs while Patrick is on video at CVS. How's that happening? How is there activity on the phone? If he did it, explain that. You can't. I can't. It's beyond a stretch to explain this. So I get it, Laura, but there's always strange facts. There's things you're not going to like. We don't know the whole story, the whole story, because the whole story of what Patrick did and why he did it is not the subject matter of the trial. So everyone's got to extrapolate and sort of presume nefarious motives for things because none of it was explored at the trial because it's not what the trial's about. So I understand that. There's some things that are just lingering out there that may never be answered. Okay. And that's Laura on Facebook, as is Sue on Facebook. Sue, who is going to pay the price for these three children that aren't here and could have been taken care of by other family members if she wanted to take her own life? This is interesting in what's going through her mind. In other cases, what we've seen, like Andrea Yates, those voices were telling her to save her children, she had to take their lives. But to prevent herself from doing that, Andrea Yates attempted to take her own life unsuccessfully, several occasions. Here, the premise is different. The voice and the thoughts are about taking her own life. And the effect that would have on my children. It's almost as if in Lindsay Clancy's mind, her children, without her mom, would suffer. Would suffer. If she wasn't there, they're going to suffer. No one can take care of my children the way I can take care of them. Unfortunately, right now I'm overwhelmed. I can't take care of them, and I have to end my own suffering, but I don't want them to suffer, so I'm going to end their lives also. Right? That's kind of, I think as you weave through all the testimony that we've heard, that's kind of as close as I can get to what's going on in her head. So the question is that or is that not someone that should be criminally prosecuted? Because the reason the voice is, the reason she's taking their lives is because she believes they will suffer without her. To me, that's not a logical thought. What she did to them caused them to suffer. That's suffering. Living without your mother when you're that young, yeah, it's not great. It's not ideal. But there's a lot of children that do very well, that are able to overcome that. They still have their father. Probably would have had a stepmother at some point. 4 grandparents ready to jump in. 4 loving grandparents. Those kids would have been okay. Those kids would have been okay. So from my perspective, if you just look at the situation, if you're a logical person, are the children suffering more or less? Where's there more suffering? If I use my exercise band on them, or if I let my husband and their grandparents and maybe the aunts, I don't know, take care of them, and maybe a stepmother down the road take care of them. Which is more suffering? It's obvious it's the exercise band is more suffering. It's the ultimate suffering. So her thought process, from my perspective, is not right. She can't tell what's better, what's worse, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. It's needs to be recalibrated. And I thought that was part of the test in all of this. But the expert, Dr. Kirk Halbman, did that analysis and came to the conclusion that no, she still knew what was right, what was right, what was wrong. Who's paying the price? You may or may not agree with me. I think the grandparents and Patrick paid the price here. They're the ones that have to live on knowing that those children aren't there. And I think Lindsay's paying some sort of a psychological price, but, will she be punished for it? Will she be punished? I don't think so. I don't think she's going to end up in prison. I really don't. To me, the surprising verdict would be, and usually it's the opposite. Like, to me, the guilty verdict is always the one that's expected in most cases. I'm always like, when I hear the words not guilty or not criminally responsible, I was like, oh, wow. Not in this case. Not based upon these facts with Massachusetts law. Don't take the law out of the equation. The law is as important, if not more important, than the facts. Because you take these facts and you, boom, plug it into different laws in different states around the country, you're going to have different results. You could take the same jury, the same people making the decision, and they make one decision in Massachusetts, a different decision in Idaho, a different decision in Utah, a different decision in another state based upon the law that they have to apply. And that's my analysis here. It's based on the facts and the law. And where you have to land. Like, at the end of the day, the jury has to follow the law, or they're supposed to follow the law. Sometimes it gives you the result that you want. Sometimes it doesn't. Tiger Lily, yes, Albrun said she's criminally responsible. But his analysis and his road to getting there, to me, I thought he could have gone either way at the end. Like, on his thought process and his analysis, getting to his conclusion could have easily gone not criminally responsible, but he went with criminally responsible. With Mac, no. Like, Mac, based on his analysis, could only go in one direction. The same with Resnick. Resnick, his analysis, you know where he's going. Dr. Halbrin, his analysis, to me, was like, not criminally responsible. Well, I knew it was going to be not criminally responsible because it was called by the prosecution. However, like, getting there to me was really an interesting route that he took. And we're getting more of this, and there was more to be fed into this today by the whole, she doesn't remember grinding up the drugs, etc. Judy Gray, hi from Australia. I do believe Patrick drugged her. Okay. If he drugged her, like, When? When? And why was her phone going up and down the stairs? Why is her phone going up and down the stairs when he's on video? I like as many pieces to fit together as possible, and things that you can act like. The video is the video. The timestamp on the video is the timestamp on the video. That's all been verified. The time that the phone is moving. If you don't believe that the phone was moving, okay. I believe the phone was moving based upon the records that were ripped through Cellbrite from her cell phone. If her phone is moving while he's on video at CVS, did he just drug her a little bit and then he left? And then she tried to take her own life? Maybe. I guess you can go with that. That's kind of risky. That's a little risky by Patrick. Letting her go up and down the stairs. And, this is I got to read this. Unapologetically Nix. Unapologetic. I was reading it like in Italian, like una, but it's unapologetically Nix. Proof Kevin Reddington is an idiot. Keep bringing up the World Health Organization. The U.S. left the World Organization signed by the president in January 25. CWW's experts weren't allowed to interview Clancy until April of 2026. Yeah, I was shocked that he kept going there with the World Health Organization. Like they've got a history of corruption. And we lived it. We absolutely lived it. They have very little credibility. So I don't know why Reddington keeps bringing them up. I'm with you there, unapologetically, Nix. I think he has much better arguments to make, and I would not rely upon the World Health Organization for anything other than them trying to get as much money from whoever will pay them money for their existence. What they did was bad. Not going to make the video into that, but all that impacted me personally. All right. Gringo with a great argument. This is a great argument. This is the argument prosecutors will make and make all the time. Why do it in private if it's not wrong? If she really didn't, and this is the go-to. If she didn't understand or comprehend the wrongfulness of what she was doing, why did she send Patrick off? Why did she send him away? Why did she send him away? And that's the foundation of the prosecution case, is the premeditation, the planning. And that's usually what prosecutors rely upon to win these cases, because inevitably the defendant will have done something that shows and recognizes some consciousness of either guilt or consciousness of understanding what they're doing is wrong, like fleeing the scene or lying to police, things like that, as opposed to Andrea Yates, who I believe called 911. I think she did. I get some of the fact patterns confused. And that takes care of one prong for you, potentially. The second prong that you have to overcome is her ability to comport her behavior, her ability to control her actions, to control that voice, to control her thoughts from doing what is what she's on trial for. So the argument there, to me, is not as black and white. You really can't point to something. And what they're pointing to is that, yeah, well, she was able to control herself. Maybe she controlled herself when Patrick made that call from CVS. She was able to conform her demeanor and what she said, right? Great argument for it. The planning ahead of time, but the planning ahead of time, I think the defense kind of answered the question about this psychosis. They're really limiting the window to when he leaves. So I think that the best argument is what Gringa has pointed out here correctly. Um, the planning and the plotting. The planning and the plotting. Let's see. All right, there's an interesting one from Mark Blaine, 8438. Vinny, think about sleepwalking or meds or operation where you say, I had a dream. What did I do last night? Okay. I'm trying to figure out your argument here. Who's this an argument for, prosecution or defense? Vinny, think about sleepwalking. This is how we used to think about it when I was growing up. If you sleepwalk, you would sleepwalk like this. As kids, we would always pretend we were sleepwalking. What did I do? Where you don't understand what you did. So was she under the influence of the drugs and didn't know what she was doing? And as a result of being drugged, did everything that she did? But she did remember doing it. So I'm not following the logic here. I'm sorry, Mark Blaine. Oh, Sue is back. Badgering the witnesses is unprofessional and disrespectful. Yeah, he's aggressive. He's aggressive. Red Rebel 39 agrees. Red is disgustingly rude. Aggressive. I think there are times to turn it on, times to turn it off. And you also have to read the jury. We've got, what do we have? Stars from Linda Jean Melville over on Facebook. What case do you think has divided this group so much? What case divided this group? We've had a bunch of them. You guys are like totally divided all the time now. Karen Reed really didn't divide. Like it wasn't really a divide there. I don't know. I think all the cases have some level of divide. It's once in a while there's much more unanimity, like in Idaho 4. This one I think is divided, folks. Don't you think? People are dug in, and if that happens in the jury room, there is a place for the compromise, but there's also people may never, ever compromise on this. They may feel that someone that takes the lives of these children should be punished. You know, there's something I posted the other day, I think on Facebook, and I said, you know, what if it was someone else's children? What if it was someone else's children? And I think when you look at it that way, I think we all need to take a step back, because I've been saying this for decades, literally decades, since my days on Sirius XM, that for some reason we treat, not in every case, but we're more likely to show grace or leniency or forgiveness or explanations to someone who is accused of going after their own children versus someone else's children. And somehow see that as some level of a mitigating factor. Oftentimes I would talk about this in the context of, should they go to death row or not? Oh, it's their own kids. Well, yeah. To me, that's an aggravating factor. because your own children trust you so much, love you so much, rely on you for everything, and you're the one who made the decision to bring them into the world. I feel like you harm your own child. And I'm not talking about whether, let's take the mental aspect of it out of it, completely out of it. Not an issue in the case. You do harm to your own child. I find that to be an aggravating factor because of that bond and that inherent trust and love that that child has for you. And when you break that trust like Adam Montgomery, worst of the worst. All right.
Time to get happy. It's time to get funky. It's time for us to smile. 'Cause here comes Max Spunky.
Mick Spunky, 6.9. Thank you, sir. Literally wearing a tinfoil hat today. Vincenzo saying hey to your awesome mods and y'all ladies. Ladies, Mick Spunky is in the house. Mick Spunky's in the house and will be at Tangent Fest 26 in New Jersey. Thank you, Mick Spunky. All right. We're able to do that. Fantastic. Mick Spunky giving us a moment here just to sort of refresh and reset. And give me a moment. I've been going over an hour without any commercial breaks. Have you noticed the shirt? Allegedly shirt. We've got some great new items in the Vinny Reginale True Crime merch shop. Make sure you check them out. I'm still looking for something from Twitch or X. I haven't gotten it, but this is from Leslie 5555. Is that 5 That's 5 fives. 5 fives. Thank you, Leslie. Wearing the shades today. Leslie. I'm still scrolling, trying to get current. If you've posted in the last 10 minutes, I'm still trying to find you. Johnny Knoxville, Reddington is a Dollar Tree Alan Jackson. Dollar Tree instead of Temu. Thank you, Johnny Knoxville. Johnny Knoxville. Joni Sullivan, Kevin Reddington, and Lindsay are looking forward to a civil trial and making lots of cash off the pharmaceutical companies and the psychiatrists. I think there will be some liability there. It'll be the insurance companies that will likely potentially pay in those cases. But the defenses are different. They're a little different. And I don't think prosecutors should align themselves with the doctors as much as they are. I think that's a mistake. But thank you, Joni Sullivan. There will be a case. I don't know how big it is. It could be a huge case. It may not be. And Josie Lou. Hi. All this after child number 3, after denied, neglected, ignored by 1-800. The voice she heard after hubby called is your last chance. I'm a mom. Many of us bite the bullet as we go and able to stand hurricanes, and many of us are not. The timing of this, is it before or after the call? That's the question. I think it's after the call. No, I think she did it before the call. If you tie in, Josie, the movement of her cell phone, 2 flights with the cell phone is what it recorded. So if it records 1 flight, then the phone call, then a second flight, that second flight, potentially, and it may not work out this way. The health date is a little, it's a little bit of flexibility to it, right? But then the second flight would put her up in the bedroom on the top floor, and then she goes out the window. So what I have in my mind, which may or may not be correct, is that the phone call happens after the three children have been eliminated by Lindsay down in the basement. She climbs one flight, has the call, then climbs the second flight, out, knife out the window. Yeah, it's not easy being a mom. We all appreciate all the work all the moms do. After denied, neglected, ignored by 1-800s, the voice you heard after hubby called is your last chance. I'm a mom. Many of us bite the bullet as we go and able to stand hurricanes. Many of us are not. Lindsay would be one who is not. There's a lot of, Monday morning quarterbacking in this case, as well there should be, right? Because this wasn't someone who was not reaching out, not someone who was ignoring what was going on. And I think a lot of those facts will help her in the eyes of the jury, right? You knew something was wrong, and you tried to take care of it. You tried to. Why was she unable to control it at the end? Well, the argument by the defense is going to be this auditory hallucination for the first time was just too strong. Thank you, Josie Lou. Appreciate it. Let's see. Some people do not. You either like Reddington or you don't like Reddington. There's some people who don't like him. Some people like him. Carrie McDougal. I love Red. I hope the prosecution ladies get canned after this and never get hired again. They are awful and flat out stink. Carrie. Now, do they stink or you just don't like their case, right? Like, that's the difference. Like, so here's the thing, right? Like Reddington, I saw him live in person years ago around the turn of the century, just after the turn of the century, representing a guy who literally Googled how to fake mental illness, and he had the same defense. Not criminally responsible. And he had searched how to fake it. And he represented him. He took out, I think it was 11 or 14 people in a workplace, really workplace rampage. Horrific, horrific, horrific. I think it was right around the holidays as well, right around Christmas. Awful, absolutely awful. Had the jury out for a couple of days on it, though. But he was convicted. In that case, you maybe wouldn't like Reddington in that case. Again, when you see the advocates in court, whether it's a prosecutor or defense attorney, don't confuse them with the cases, right? Like the cases and the people involved in the cases are one thing. These are the lawyers who are hired or who are working, who are representing. They should believe in their case, but they don't, a defense attorney doesn't have to believe their client. Prosecutor has to believe their case. If they don't believe their case, they should not be prosecuting. So I believe both women believe their case. Think about this. This is a quote early on in the case from one of the friends and former co-worker of Lindsay, who said, when Lindsay was told about Andrea Yates, her response was, I can't believe anyone would do that to their children. Like Lindsay said that. I can't believe anyone would do this to her children. If that Lindsay was on this trial, she would probably convict herself because she can't believe someone would do this to her own children. But she ended up doing it. Like there's a lot of witnesses and facts in this case that really, it's not a clean case. A whodunit if this was a whodunit, and it's not, I know some people think it is, like a whodunit, it's like they either did it or they didn't do it. Like we get it. There's a black and a white to it. This is as gray as it can be. All right, Gringa, criminal defense attorney can profit from civil judgment. No, but a criminal defense attorney, like you don't sign up and say, all right, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I can't do civil cases. I don't think he's involved in the civil case, but he can be involved in the civil case. He's not precluded from being involved in the civil case. But the attorneys that would make money from the civil case are the attorneys who are representing her in the civil case. I don't think Kevin Reddington is, but maybe he is. I don't know. I don't know. Now, in another way, and I don't think there's a lot of ethical rules about how lawyers get paid in civil cases, like lawyers that refer a case, how you procure a case, and what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. So I'm not exactly sure what the situation is there surrounding all that. Okay, Allie Blanche, Vin. I like the way that's all caps. Vin. And then when people try to get my attention, they do say that. They'll say Vin instead of Vinny. He's the face voice of all women struggling with mental health. Give me a break. He's the biggest narcissist in the room. Now, this is interesting. This is very interesting, and I want you to take a moment now to think about this because there's a split here. I should redo the poll to see if the numbers have changed. But I'm going to wait till the jury deliberations. Maybe I'll post it then. What a jury thinks of the lawyer can impact the way they see the case. If they don't like, if Allie is on the jury and she doesn't like him, he's not going to win. He's not going to win. If he really feels that strongly about, I don't like this guy. That's what happened in the Casey Anthony trial. They didn't like the prosecutor. Did not like him. Felt like he was arrogant. If this jury believes there's a level of narcissism or arrogance, that's a problem. That's especially when you're asking this jury to acquit, for all intents and purposes, someone who has admittedly taken the lives of 3 innocent children. Some great comments today. Okay, True Crime Mind 1, no way 12 people could agree on this hung jury, going to get messy in the deliberation room. Could take a while. I think they'll want to. I think they really will want to. And there is room for a compromise on involuntary manslaughter. So I think we'll get a verdict. Initially, going into this, I was like, Having watched it, I'm more like, I think they'll reach a verdict. Now, it's a 4-week trial, so I would say if we get a verdict within 2 days, it's no way prosecutors win. I think if we get to like 4 days, it's anyone's call. Once you get past 4 days, we're in a long deliberation here. I mean, it's going to be long to begin with because it was a long trial. But if it's quick, like Karen Reed was pretty quick. Karen Reed got sped up by that day off, Friday factor. We'll see. So if they have closing arguments, if the arguments are Thursday, Friday verdict would be quick, but possible. And that would be a Lindsay Clancy verdict. I would expect it to go into the following week. I don't think this is a judge who's going to have them work on the weekends. I don't think they generally do that in Massachusetts, but we'll see. We shall see. Did you know that the Casey Anthony jury deliberated on July 4th? Now, Anna Marie, on the other hand, over on Facebook says the prosecution is horrifying. Like, people are dug in. Is there anyone on the fence? Any fence riders here? People are really annoyed by either side. And Sunny Gem 221, Vinny, I agree. Thank you. Thank you. The jury should be sequestered. Sequestered for deliberations. Like, I've seen that in cases. Trust the jury. Just trust them. Let them come back and forth. Let them come back and forth. All right. Oh, folks, I wanted to remind you about my amazing true crime merch.
T-shirt and a hoodie, a beach towel and a mug. A new design from Vinny is better than a drug. True crime merch, you know he did it. True crime merch, mark the exhibit. True crime merch, we hate Casey. True crime merch from Vinny originally. Our tangent stuff is great, unlike any others. Buy it now, don't wait. Perfect for all you mothers. True crime merch, allegedly. True crime merch, stepped on a beat. True crime merch, it's not free. True crime merch from Vinny originally.
All right, check out the Vinny Original True Crime Merch Shop for your true crime merch needs. Got some great new items there. We got a Vinny After Dark. We've got The Husband Did It. We got a bunch of good stuff there. All right, Lauren Nabo, I agree with you. A thorough investigation was not done again in Massachusetts. So many loose ends, not enough to say Patrick Clancy did anything, but to tie up why things do not mesh. They did investigate Patrick. Like, they did investigate him. Like, they checked out his story. They went to CVS. They got the video. Like, they did all that stuff. What else are they supposed to do? Like, what else are you supposed to do? When we say a thorough investigation was not done, what was left out of this investigation? What was left out? They interviewed Patrick Clancy. They brought him in. They got statements from him. They checked out his statements. Like, they extracted her cell phone. Like, the part to me, like, all of this is like the cell phone is moving and he's on video. Like, his story checks out. What he said checks out. Like, where he was. So, I think, Lauren, if you watch every trial on court TV and listen to these defense attorneys, they're going to pick apart every investigation is referred to, except in a case like this, right? Every investigation where it's like a whodunit or my guy didn't do it, some other dude did it. Every defense attorney argues in every case that it was a sloppy investigation. If they arrest him quickly, it's a rush to judgment. If they wait 4 months to arrest him, that's a problem. So I would just be careful about slapping a a label on this. This is not the Karen Reed case. It just isn't. It never was. It was self-evident from the beginning what happened, but they still checked it out. Like they checked it out. And we didn't hear the 911 calls, by the way. Investigators heard the 911 call. I didn't hear it. We didn't hear it on air. A limited number of people who were in the courtroom heard it. And every description is there's a reason why it wasn't made public, that it was that horrifying. Can Patrick Clancy fake it that much? Do you really think he can? Based upon what people said they heard. Again, I didn't hear it firsthand. We were not permitted to. I think that was a mistake. I don't think our system of justice should be set up in a way where transparency disappears when things are just, horrible. Because you could argue that every single trial involving a homicide is horrible. They all are horrible, but we don't have secret court in this country. We don't. But sometimes they do things like this. But we'll see. Yes, originale. Josie, or originale. Originale. Vinny Originale. They're all originals. And Gen X. Want to be a model in the next bumper song? Send your pics wearing Vinny Originale to vinnysmods@gmail.com. Send your pictures and we'll work it in. I'm always updating and redoing and remixing. I think there's been 3 different versions of the True Crime merch. And sometimes maybe on a Thursday, we'll throw back and play an oldie. But for those of you not familiar with Gen X, you should be. She is part of our Best in the Business Mod Squad.
The Mod Squad, keeping order in the chat. The Mod Squad, spotting trolls who attack. Oh, Gen X is ready and on the scene. Frankie Biggs making sure they're keeping it clean. Jennifer Soubey telling haters don't be so mean. And Ashley Bouchard on top of our Facebook screen. We are the Mod Squad, cleaning up the mess. The Mod Squad, simply the best. The Mod Squad.
Amazing work by the amazing ladies of the Mod Squad. Ellie Masters, the defense would be all over Patrick if they thought he had anything to do with it. Yes, and if Lindsay did not admit to doing it to all the forensic psychologists that she spoke to. Okay, and Kay Gambling, I think she should be held criminally responsible for her actions. Yes, she had mental problems, but she also refused to do or take meds or advice given. This is such an interesting issue for me. Thank you, Kay, for pointing this out, because I think you can look at this 2 different ways, right? Now, and I've sent notes up to some of the lawyers I know up in Massachusetts on this particular issue, and I'll keep it up there. Like, is the jury going to be instructed that if the defendant has mental problems and doesn't do anything and everything she can to solve those problems, then she's held criminally responsible? I don't think so. But like our gut, our instincts tell us, well, if you're not going to help yourself, then why should you get the benefit, right? That's the way we look at it. Then I look at it through the law and through the impact of this. So if she has mental problems and she doesn't do or take the meds or the advice given, then she still has the mental problems. Like they don't go away. Does the law care why the mental problems are there? Does the law distinguish between a mental problem that maybe could have been fixed if the patient or the defendant did something versus the mental problem is there and there was nothing to do to fix it? Like, does the law care, or does the law just care about your state of mind at the time of the alleged crime? I think it's the latter. I think the law only looks at your mental state at the time. Why your mental state is there, I don't think the law really cares. If it's a mental disease or defect. So from my perspective, arguably, it's a tough argument because most people have the reaction, including the prosecutors in this case, and the way they've examined the witnesses, that her refusal to take the meds or refusal to do or follow through with the treatment should be held against her. Like, I get that. But legally, should it be held against her? Because what it tells me is that she still has the mental problems. And isn't the whole point of, if we have someone with mental problems and that's what's impacting her decision making and the way she thinks about things and perceives reality, isn't that a problem for prosecutors more so than the defense? I don't know. This is like that gray area I've been talking about in this case that can be twisted either way. Great comment, Kay. Thanks for pointing that out. I meant to talk about that. Tara McCardle, I despise the prosecutors. And I think Red is a rock star. I do think he is overly aggressive. Crosses lately have been over the line a little. I think it may affect the jury. Of course, likely the hard Commonwealth too. Yeah, I agree with you, Tara. I know he's really good at what he does, but can it turn into a broken record? Like, I understand that these witnesses are talking about the ultimate issue, so you have to really go after them. But Mack and Heilbrunn are two different guys. Even their demeanor was different. I really thought Dr. Kirk Heilbrunn, whether you agree with him or disagree with him, I thought he came off as very thoughtful. Even the way he answered questions, you could see him thinking. And he wasn't like pedal to the metal anti-Lindsay. He was acknowledging a lot of what the defense was saying. And it was just a divergence just at the end. He diverged and said criminally responsible. But the analysis was not it was not Dr. Mack. All right, Sylvia Escobedo, 3383. Vin, I think the prosecution seems desperate to call an expert who just got in the case 3 months ago. Despite his qualifications, 2 Zoom meetings is not sufficient to form an opinion, in my opinion. Okay, yeah, I get it, but here's the reality of it. You do not have automatic access to the defendant. And each state does this differently. And there were some issues about getting access to Lindsay Clancy. There absolutely was. And by the way, the issue of mental disease or defect is not an issue for prosecutors out of the box. It's only an issue if the defense makes it an issue, and then they have to disprove it. But this whole thing about doing it 3 months ago is what it is. Like, they did not have access beforehand, so someone couldn't be on the case earlier or could not do what they needed to do earlier. I don't know exactly the back and forth, and they didn't want the jury to know the exact back and forth of what the delay was all about. But it seemed like Reddington wanted to make sure, listen, don't blame me. It wasn't me. Don't look at me. I wasn't keeping them away. But was not permitted to go all the way in the questioning that he wanted to on that issue. So there is something a little funky going on there. So I wouldn't hold it against either side. I would just say it's the way it worked out in our systems, where our system works. When a defendant has rights, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. Because you're having someone for the prosecution talk to someone who has a lawyer, and she's going to make admissions in that interview, like admitting to doing it. So there are safeguards set up in the system. So you don't have automatic access to the defendant. But if they want to present this defense, they have to provide access. And how it went down this way wasn't ideal, but I would not hold it against prosecutors, but I also would not hold it against the defense. Just leave it out there. It's, to me, and I think the judge wants the jury to just look at it as a non-issue. Okay, Jennifer, let's go full circle here. If it's insanity, she won't be a free woman going home with her parents. No, not right out of the courtroom. Not initially. But it will happen relatively quickly, especially based upon the evidence from this case. The testimony from forensic psychologist who told us that she is responding very well to her treatment. And she's not having any episodes. She's very stable. She's complying with treatment and responding very well. And that's the kind of testimony and evidence that if she's found not criminally responsible and then is placed in a civil commitment, that will get her her freedom. Responding well to the treatment, complying with taking the medications, not being a danger to herself or others. She's in a wheelchair. How much of a danger is there to begin with? Already compared to the normal, not criminally responsible killer type, she is way ahead of the curve already in not being a danger to herself or others, because she's now relying on others. Like, is she going to be able to, like, what is she going to be able to do? Like, where's the danger? Where's the danger to herself? She's going to have access in a way to be a danger to herself. But those hearings very quickly are going to result in her going home for weekends at first, and then eventually she'll be completely released and she'll be home. And it's not going to take 20 years. It's not going to take 30 years. It's going to be a lot less than that. And she has a great place to be. Like, her parents are ready, willing, and able. Not all people who are not criminally responsible have that. And that's often an issue. Like, we let them go. Where are they going to go? Well, we know exactly where Lindsay will go. And we know exactly where Lindsay's going to be. Like, she's not hopping in the car and heading to Mexico. Like, you're going to be able to keep tabs on her. Whoever's taking care of her can keep tabs on her pretty easily. And we'll have to keep tabs on her because they're going to have to help take care of her. Thank you, Jennifer. Laura LeBay, the medication regimen was a train wreck. Another big issue. Another big issue. The medication, the inexperience, the wrong medication, the wrong diagnosis, all of that will be held against the prosecution, which is why the prosecution should not have aligned themselves with the treating physicians. But they sort of did. They should have figured out a way to acknowledge that, okay, yeah, the doctors didn't do everything right, but Oh, this is great. Mo McDermott. I heard the 911 call because I was there, and she was there. Yes, it was horrifying, and there's no way he had anything to do with the killings of his children. Mo had an opportunity to experience something that most of us did not. The overwhelming majority of us did not, which is the 911 call. And this is why transparency is so important. My guess is if we all heard the 911 call, there'd be many fewer people that would be doubting the prosecution and doubting what is happening inside this courtroom. That's just my guess. You got to trust Mo. Who doesn't trust Mo? Why wouldn't you trust Mo? All right, our friend Robert Fahrenholt. Also, Vinny, we need your special friend Dr. Phil with you on the case at the 8 p.m. hour after Inside Edition at 7:30. Vinny Politan investigates at 8. All right. Thank you, Robert. On the job. Robert's always there. We appreciate him. Key Wood, 7431. You can also have a psychotic break and not know right from wrong. Goes both ways. Being sick is not the legal standard. Right. Mental illness is not the legal standard. The legal standard in Massachusetts is appreciate the wrongfulness or be able to adjust your behavior, control your behavior. If you're unable to control your behavior, or if you don't appreciate the wrongfulness of what you're doing, one or the other, then you are not criminally responsible. And the burden is on the prosecution to disprove it beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the real hook to this whole thing. That's the real difference. Justice Go Lightly. Vinny, too loud, bro. The last time I was here, people said they couldn't hear me. Now I'm too loud. Y'all got to make up your mind. Okay. I have to turn down the volume every time a song is played. Okay. I can play the songs a little lower. I need an engineer, full-time engineer, to run this show. This could be a great argument for prosecutors. Lindsay Clancy was not disassociated because she called Patrick back while taking care of the little ones. I think it was after, because of the flights on the iPhone, but maybe not. Could have been in the middle of it all. It's a compelling argument. If I was a prosecutor, if you're watching, write this down. Write this down. These closing arguments are going to be important in this case. How you marshal the facts, how you make the arguments, how you give this jury a roadmap. And I think that's going to be key here, is the legal roadmap. The facts, there might be slight discrepancy in some of the facts, but I think it's not really the facts that are in question here. It's the interpretation of the facts in applying them to the law. And I think that is really incumbent on either side here, but especially prosecutors. If you want to win this case, you've got to make it clear and simple, the road to conviction, how you are disproving all this stuff beyond a reasonable doubt. And make sure you show them, because the defense is going to try to make it look like your burden is something that cannot be overcome. So they've got to kind of bring it back down to something manageable. Sunny Gem 221 Knox, I love the Mod Squad song. Who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love that? Who does not love the Mod Squad song? Right? It's a good one. It's a classic. Much like this next one.
Lady from the West Coast, we know what it is you love most. It's not Gucci or Mercedes Benz, it's our cute little furry four-legged friends. Deborah Miller, 1214. Deborah Miller. We like animals but love you more.
Deborah Miller 1214. Dr. Phil, oh dear God, no. Dr. Phil was a big true crime fan. Big true crime fan. I'll tell you what, being on his show, the one thing about being on Dr. Phil's show, those chairs, you have no idea how big those chairs are and how high they are off the ground. Like you got to really like hoist yourself up there. And they're just these massive, like directors, but not directors, and very, very comfortable. Yeah, well-run show. That was. I've been on a lot of shows. That one, like all the moving parts that they have, et cetera, with the live studio audience and everything, really well done. It was a top-notch organization. This is interesting from Marcia Kidd. I don't know how Patrick can't be charged with something for not protecting his children at the time. Criminal law is a mens rea. It's purposeful conduct. What you're alleging is some negligent conduct. Okay. He knew or should have known. His conduct was so reckless, right? This is to be charged criminally for non-purposeful behavior, right? Like he didn't want his children. He didn't want that done to his children, right? To be charged for not protecting his children from Lindsay. He would have had to have known that it was foreseeable that that would have happened when he left. Was there anything? And all the testimony has been the opposite, that she was doing well and having some of her best days leading up to that moment. Doctors are sending her home. No doctor realized that there was a problem here, that there was a danger. How would Patrick know? I think that's an unwinnable case if you were to charge him. I think it would be unwinnable because of the burden, again, beyond any and all reasonable doubt. But also the burden in the world of criminal negligence becomes, it's got to be like over the top. Like you knew or you should have known, Patrick, that if you went to go pick up medicine for the kids, that she was going to take him out. How would he know that from that day or the days leading up to it? I don't know. That's a tough one to prove. Now, you could feel like he's somehow morally responsible. Did he feel guilty? I don't know. What I saw on the stand was a man who was angry that he was there and was trying to control his breathing and keeping himself from breaking down. But I get what you're saying. Because on the one hand, if the defense is arguing that this is so obvious that this mental illness was there, then he should have known, but he had no idea. So the prosecution turns around and says, well, he had no idea because the mental illness really didn't cause all this. You see how that works? Thank you, Marcia. And I did not pull a Brady Bunch there with the Marcia. Oh, and now Jessica saying, turn your mic up. I'm too loud. I'm not loud enough. Oh, my goodness gracious. What are we going to do here? I need an engineer. Engineer in here. I don't know. I'm at a loss, Jessica. I don't know what to do. Maybe I could wear headphones. I don't know. I don't want to wear headphones though. Thank you, Jessica. Wesley Lurk, S6B90. Patrick shouldn't have left her alone with those angels. I'm sure he wishes he did not. But then would she have done it on another day? Like at what point were the children safe? Should she have had her committed? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's a tough situation because they both did seek help. Like, he was in the mix as well. He's also working full time, also helping watching the kids. Like, they're playing zone at that point, right? When you have three, you got to play zone. You're not playing man to man, right? If two parents, two kids, or two parents, one kid, manageable. 3 kids, 2 parents. Now we're playing zone. Lisa Green, 7186. I agree, Vinny. Thank you. Jen Vargas, she told medical professionals that she was having dark thoughts, and all they did was increase the medicine that she was having adverse reactions to. Well, that's going to be the civil case, right? That's the civil case. How does that apply to this case? And here's what's interesting. I think from the defense perspective, they almost feel like if they can prove malpractice here in this criminal case, like sort of prove malpractice, that's a defense. It's the doctor's fault. It's the medicine's fault. I don't know. There's 2 separate things, I think. Okay, let's go full circle again. Sue Ann Bream, thank you. I think she was insane at the time, and I think she should just spend the rest of her life in a mental facility. And I think a lot of people think that's what will happen. But what I'm telling you here, and the whole point of this video was to let you know that no, she will go free and she will go live with her parents. And it won't be right after a verdict. If it was not criminally responsible, she's not going to be taken home. No, she's going to go into an institution. There'll be a separate hearing for for her to be confined, right? And then they come back to court again and again, every 6 months. Boom, we come in, we make a motion. And her attorneys from the beginning, will be arguing for her to be released. Every time in court, they will ask for more freedom and for her to go home. Every single time they will argue for that. Prosecutors will have a role, sort of. That's what I did. You sort of have a role. And then the treating doctors will come in and will tell the judge every single time how well she's doing. And they will recommend that she get more freedom, more than she has at that moment. Whether it means being able to take a day trip to the mall or visit her parents at home and then come back or spend the weekend at her parents. That's the way it's going to go. That's the way it's going to go. That's the reality. The reality is she's not criminally responsible. She will be confined initially. Then they'll have a hearing, and there'll be an argument to allow her to go home for a day trip. And at some point, she'll go home for a day trip. And then they'll report back to the judge. She went on a day trip. Everything went well. She's ready for an overnight trip. Then she'll do an overnight trip to her parents' house. Then she'll go for a weekend. Then she'll stay for a week. And then they'll report back to the court and they'll say how well everything went and she complied with her medicine and she's doing everything. She did not decompensate. She responded well. And then eventually she will be released to her parents' house. Then she'll do, visitation with treating physicians via Zoom. She'll go to outpatient, maybe in person, but more likely Zoom. They'll pick up prescriptions. The doctors will talk to the parents as well, and then they'll go to court and say how hunky-dory everything is going. And then at some point, she'll just be completely released from any judicial supervision. That's the way this one's going to play out, folks, if she's found not criminally responsible. That I am 1,000% confident in the way this will play out, because there's a big misperception. Josie Lou, way too generous, but thank you. I watch trials with Melanie Little. She's one of a kind and ensures we all stay neutral and open as we watch it all unfold. Gut instincts are a thing, though, with me. Kevin Reddington is a limited edition. Non credo che le sia colpevole. Non credo che le sia colpevole. Yeah, the last part, I don't know what it means. I need a translation for that. I will now translate it. Da 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 da. Non credo, not credible, I believe. Che what lei, that's the verb, sia colpevole. Colpevole. What is that? And drum roll, please. Oh, non credo is not guilty. I don't think she's guilty. I don't think she's guilty. All right. Josie Lou with a bilingual message. What's a limited edition? K. Reddington, limited edition. That's a compliment, I believe, right? He's one of a kind. He's been doing it a long time. I wish I had the audio of him yelling at John DePietro. I don't know why the audio did not. Let me see. I cannot do that while on air here. I'll do that for next time. But thank you, Josie Lou. Let's see. She was. Megan A1, they have said over and over, she still has SI legally. The hospital can't release her if she's a threat to herself. Right, if she's a danger to herself or to others. And she will quickly become no longer a threat because the institution wants to open up the beds and get her out. That's what they do. Nightingale, oh gee, she won't last outside of an institution or prison. Well, if she does decompensate, then, but it's so different. The wheelchair is such a game changer in all of this, right? This wheelchair, because a lot of times the danger is doing something. What can she do? What can't she do in the wheelchair? It seems like she is more reliant upon needing help than being able to harm someone else. And I think that's a huge factor, and that will come up in every hearing when it comes to danger herself or others. Mm-hmm. But Barnabas Collins, 4625, she still has those evil hands. Yeah, obviously she can still do some things, but compared to someone who is not in a wheelchair. And Gen X. Vinny likes to hear what both sides are thinking. Absolutely, always. Matter of fact, I used to host a show on Court TV called Both Sides. Whoa. Justice Jane 24. Great, great, great. I don't know. A lot of times they will do something like that. But the fact that it was sealed and everything else along with it, will she just refer to it? Is it so over the top that it would be offensive to play it again and make the jury listen to it again? Or can you say, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that 911 call. You'll have it in the jury room if you need to hear it again. I don't think you do. I think that's probably the better approach to that. But I understand the temptation. The temptation. Debbie Atchison Brooks, I just arrived. Who is Mo? Mo McDermott. She's a local up there in Massachusetts. She was at the Karen Reed case for everything, and she was inside the courtroom when the 911 call was played. Who is Mo McDermott? Jennifer Skalski, why didn't the Apple data show her going up and down multiple times? The Apple data is the Apple data. I don't know. This isn't a case where there was as much, like in the Murdoch case, there was a lot more. Karen Reed, obviously, there was a lot of focus on it. Here, there wasn't a ton of focus on this, but I thought it was important in the timing, and they didn't go outside of that timeline much with the movements of the Apple devices. So I can't answer that for you. What I can answer for you, though, is the experiment that I did during the Karen Reed trial with my iPhone. Me and Cody Thomas did it together. We walked up and down some stairs, and it recorded us going up the stairs and down the stairs. Like, it recorded those flights. And then we drove the route that Karen Reed drove to see if the Apple data would show a flight, and it did not. When we were driving, Apple data, nothing with flights. 0, 0, 0. So in that case, what was argued by the expert in that case didn't match up with my own personal experiment. All right. And Patuchat or PyTouch at or PyTook hat or Pedo Utch at. The horror Lindsay faced is as bad, if not worse, than the horror Patrick faced. Psychiatrists failed her with drug overdoses. Big problem for prosecutors are the drugs. And Julie, WP6RD, does Vinny have 3 or 4 shows? Okay. We've got on Court TV, I've got Vinny Politan Investigates. Used to have a show called Closing Arguments. We used to do Closing Arguments and Vinny Politan Investigates. Now we just do Vinny Politan Investigates. That's on Court TV at 8 o'clock. Also posts on the Court TV YouTube channel. Here on my own channels, I have Vinny Live and I have Vinny After Dark. Vinny Live is a live show. Vinny After Dark is a recorded show that I record at the end of the day after it gets dark out. So that's what we have. Thank you so much. Thank you. And by the way, folks, please subscribe. I never tell people to subscribe. Subscribe right now. Everybody hit the like button on 3. Ready? Everybody. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Let's go. All right. I think you're supposed to do that in the beginning of the video. All right, before we go, I just want to hit the like button and subscribe. That's what the YouTubers do. I need to start doing that. All right. Oh, Amber from our Crime Time Angels. Caught you live. The Commonwealth has been all over the place this whole trial. Experts who have never treated postpartum cases. Experts who lie. That is quite an accusation, accusing an expert of lying. They give opinions. They give opinions. How can an opinion be a lie? But anyway, Amber, Crime Time Angels, in the house. All right. It pays to be polarizing. I figured it out. She was drug seeking and, according to testimony, turned away from programs because of the amount of meds she disclosed. Guilty. Guilty as charged. According to It Pays to Be Polarizing. Well, that will polarize people. I wonder if there's a gender differentiation here in this case. I wonder, is there a difference in the way moms see this case versus non-moms, whether it's female or male? Is there a difference? Thank you. It pays to be polarizing. This was interesting. TK Love, she plans on doing a wheelchair marathon. Yeah, that was a bizarre fact that made its way into this case. And guess what? At some point, she probably will, if she's found not criminally responsible. She'll be able to do that. And Anna Barone. Oh, Anna Barone. Que cosa fa? 8727. She should never, ever have kids again. Can she? Can she? I don't know if she can. I guess she can have kids. If she meets another guy or... I don't know if you can legally prohibit that. This is interesting. Cue this. Looks like someone who may have been on the fence, and now the last few days make me believe she was not in psychosis and knew right from wrong at the time of the murder. That would make her guilty as charged. Cue this. Thank you. And Frankie Figs throwing out a thank you as well. Deborah Miller asking, who is Melanie Little? Melanie Little, great attorney, but now like incredible YouTuber, live streamer. She's live during the trial, I think, every day. I don't know if she's doing stuff at night also. Melanie Little, very passionate. Lisa Koch, Andrea Yates could have been released and she wants to stay in the facility. She's not paralyzed either. Yeah, Lisa, that's right. Andrea Yates did not want to be released. She could have gotten out. That's been a while, right? That's been like more than 20 years. It'll be much quicker. Much quicker for Lindsay Clancy. Much quicker for her. Joyce Miller, correct. There's no such thing as life in a mental facility. No, there isn't. You are correct. And like I lived it, and I saw what happened. And this was in New Jersey, and it was a battle because there were a lot of people I felt should not have been released as quickly as they were, and as quickly as the treating physicians from the state mental facility wanted them released. So many times I would object. And I'd have to cross-examine the doctors on it. Because the doctors would say the same thing every time. The same thing every time, every single time. I knew what they were going to say before they said it. All right. Theros Rodriguez, 77. Did anyone look at hormone levels, cause of postpartum, menopause, so much more? Oh, here we go in another language again. Yo también creo que no tiene falta esta enferma. All right, I'll do the translation. All right, let's go. Yo, this is Spanish, I believe. También creo que no tiene falta esta enferma. I also think she is not sick. I also think she isn't sick. Wow. Thank you, Theras Rodriguez, 77. Does not think she's sick. Look at that. So now if everyone is going to put everything in, I'm seeing more of these dual language posts. Hilarious. It's a thing now. Justice go lightly. I don't buy the lie, Amber. I don't buy the lie. And Rawlio won again. I can see the premeditation, the planning. Prosecutors are going to focus on that in their closing argument. The Red Rums were torturous and face down. She's a nurse. This is not love. But Tanya, Christina, love Vinny. Thank you, Tanya, Christina. Amber Crime Time pointing out the lie. His paper from 1979. 1979 was like the peak of disco. The absolute peak of disco. He agreed it was about PPP, and it was not. Case closed. Thank you, Amber Crime Time. Men don't understand hormones. Hey, I don't think we're claiming to understand them. Tanya Christina loves the Zoloft, loves me and the Zoloft. Nice. All right, good conversations. Kelly Gates, Facebook, if she ends up getting out of a mental institution, it'll be a great travesty, jail for life. Well, if it's life, it's no longer jail, it becomes prison. Jail is you cannot be in jail for more than a year. So if your sentence is less than a year, you go to jail. If it's more than a year, you go to prison. While you're awaiting your trial, you stay in jail unless you are Richard Allen. For some reason, in the Delphi case, he was sent to prison before his trial. Thank you, Kelly. Oh, there is a fourth show, says Cruiser Chris World Network 4141. Hi, Vinny, you still do the Tangent Podcast, right? There are 4 shows. The Tangent Podcast, we'll have that again on Friday or maybe before with Alan Jonesy. Yes, still doing the Tangent Podcast. We're growing the Tangent Podcast, and we're getting ready to drop and release the Tangent Investigation Podcast, which is an episodic investigation of a unsolved case. So the Tangent Podcast is the live one. The Tangent Investigation Podcast will be the episodic podcast that's getting ready to drop. We're getting close. We also have Tangent Fest 26 coming up. We announced the winners. I got to post the winners' names as well, but people who are able to attend, we may open it up again if we don't get all the responses from the initial winners. Okay, wrong translation. It says, I don't think she is at fault. She is sick. Okay. All right. Thank you, Lisa Lindmark. I don't claim, it wasn't me. Don't blame me. It was Google. It was Google. It wasn't me. I don't think she's at fault. She is sick. Okay. Thank you for that. Working on my gains. She's guilty because she never told a medical professional she was having thoughts of harming the kids. Therefore, she couldn't properly be treated. She did, though. She did. But again, a little gray area about exactly the way it was phrased, the phraseology of it. But there was that, and that was at one point, but not in the immediate buildup to the actual taking of the children's lives. Now, here's a question. If you believe she never told a medical professional, did she purposely not tell them and that should be held against her? Or it never happened and that's why she didn't tell a medical professional? What helps the prosecution, what helps the defense in this case, I've been wrestling with throughout, because I think there are things the prosecution is doing that help the defense. I think there's things the defense are doing that could help the prosecution and doesn't help them. So there's a lot of this that is not clear cut, because it's not clear cut. What we're trying to do is analyze someone's mind at the time that they're doing this horrific, horrific thing. We're trying to get inside the mind, and she's not getting on the witness stand to tell us anything. Like, that's not happening. So we've got to forensically get inside her mind. And that's not easy to do. And that's not black and white. Who done it is black and white. If you can figure it out. You either did it or you didn't do it. Here, it's not black and white, which is what makes this case so difficult for this jury. And difficult for us, and why we should have this very vigorous, passionate debate that is taking place tonight. Amber Crime Time Angels is back again. Vinny, how many more winners for Tangent Fest? Do I still have time? If your name was pulled from the lottery, you would get an email saying that you won. But if we don't get the responses in time, we shall open it up. So that's where that is. For Tangent Fest, which will be Columbus Day weekend. And we come back to, but what if she didn't do it? Why didn't they do a thorough investigation from the beginning? Because none of this makes sense. Well, first, would something that someone who's mentally ill make sense? Like if they did something? If someone is mentally ill and they're doing something, does it make sense? Would it make sense? No. They did do the investigation. It wasn't a difficult investigation as to who was responsible. It's pretty clear from the beginning. They did investigate Patrick. Why do you think they went to CVS? Why do you think they questioned him? Lindsay was the one asking for a lawyer. I don't think this is a viable theory that she didn't do it. Like her phone is going up flights of stairs when he's on video. Get me beyond that. Explain that to me. Explain that to me. How her phone is moving while he's on video at CVS. Her phone's moving in the house. How? What, is there another person? That's the fact that you can't get around. Like, if you don't want to believe people's testimony, you don't want to believe alleged confessions, you don't want to believe lawyers' admissions, you don't want to believe the defendant's admission to the forensic psychologist, how do you get around that? How do you get around? You can't get around it. At least I haven't heard anything. But that's where we are. Whew. All right. It's getting late. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you to our great mod squad. Thank you for the great conversation. Now, let me get my book. We might have some newcomers here who don't know that I am a type 1 diabetic. Don't worry, it's the good kind. Type 1. No, there is no good diabetes. But anyway, it's the time of the program where you have an opportunity to get your name on the wheel and potentially win a prize at the end of the quarter. We are in Q3 right now. If you can successfully, based upon my performance, my demeanor, I had lunch, but I did not have dinner because I've been on here for 2.5 hours. It's time for you. You can't guess yet. Any guesses that are going up now will not be valid, will not be recognized. You cannot guess until the music begins. It's like playing musical chairs here. So beginning when the music starts, it's time to guess my blood sugar.
Here's a type 1. He's type 1. His pancreas is on fruits. He has diabetes. type 1 juvenile diabetes. And so it's time to guess, is it more or less? What's his blood sugar? What's Vinny's blood sugar? Under 70, he gets laced head. Under 60, all the alarms start ringing. Over 180, he starts to get lethargic. But when it's 90, Vinny, eyes are singing. And so it's time to guess, is it more or less? What's his blood sugar? What's Vinny's blood sugar? But take a guess. Yes, take a guess. Let's guess Vinny's blood sugar now.
I'm seeing a lot of close guess.
Here's the type 1. Here's type 1. His pancreas is on fruits. He has diabetes, type 1 juvenile diabetes. And so it's time to guess, is it more or less? What's his blood sugar? What's Vinny's blood sugar? Under 70, he gets laced head. Under 60, all the alarms start ringing. Over 180, he starts to get lethargic. But when it's 90, Vinny, eyes are singing. And so it's time to guess, is it more or less? What's his blood sugar? What's Vinny's blood sugar? But take a guess. Yes, take a guess. Let's guess Vinny's blood sugar now.
Sally Bella getting good at this. Getting really good at this. 92, which is like perfect, is my blood sugar. I guess that's why I was able to go 2.5 hours, right? If my blood sugar's perfect, I could just, if I was playing basketball tonight, I'd probably be great. But we had a bunch of 90s and 91s. And if you guessed 92, yeah, you got it right. But it's the first person to get it right, which was Sally Vella, 7012, with the correct blood sugar reading tonight. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see. Oh, look at this. Justice Go Lightly. Vinny, I've trained service dogs to detect a rise or drop in blood sugars. Dog can detect up to 30 minutes before traditional monitoring equipment. That's amazing. That'd be great for kids, especially parents who are worried with their kids. We have all this monitoring equipment, but the more, the better. The more, the better. And Michelle, where's my money? I don't know. I don't know where your money is. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. But anyway, folks, thanks again so much. Make sure you check out Vinny Politan Investigates, dropping on Court TV's YouTube very shortly. It's also 8 o'clock on Court TV if you like to watch me on the big screen. Thanks to the Mod Squad. Thank you to you. That's it for now. I appreciate it. And I didn't even realize it was 2.5 hours. Have a great night. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
It's that time to say goodbye. Thank you for watching Vinny Live. We'll be back, but I don't know when. We hope chance. Please hit the like and do subscribe. Let's do it again on Vinny Live. Now before you go, just one more thing. Please post below, say anything. Vinny Live, it's Vinny Live. Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! Vinny Live, it's Vinny Live. Woo-hoo! It's Vinny Live. Now before you go, just one more thing. Please post below, say anything.